Laura Bailey reveals her secrets to Critical Role romance.
You're all invited to the wedding of the century.
Laura Bailey has revealed a ton of juicy secrets about her various Critical Role romances, hints at her next character, and more. But before we break down her fireside chat, why not take a second to hit those like and subscribe buttons to help us keep these videos coming? And then, let's find out some behind-the-scenes secrets from Critical Role. Laura Bailey was the latest guest for Critical Role's fireside chat now that the cast is back in the studio and making content again. And she brought a ton of chaos energy to her time in the chair, continuously losing track of the questions and chatting to the behind-the-camera crew, but she did drop some huge reveals about romance in Critical Role, her potential next character for Campaign 4, and of course her ever-growing dice addiction. To start off with, Laura was asked several questions about her character's various romances in Critical Role, and some of the most interesting things she revealed included that in the original campaign, she literally never talked to Taliesin about the romance between Percy and Vex. In fact, Laura mentioned that if Percy hadn't made the first move in their now iconic romance, Vex would never have initiated the romance that led to one of the most beloved families and ships in all of Critical Role. So we could have missed out on Percy and Vex and their whole family entirely. When it came to Ford and Jester, Laura confirmed that she did go out of her way to try and push a relationship between the two characters because Travis had previously sworn off romance in a campaign, and Laura replied that she was going to romance his character and there was simply nothing he could do about it. But the big reveal was that at a certain point in Campaign 2, Laura thought that Travis just wasn't going to commit to the idea no matter what, which led Jester to start flirting with all the other characters more. And Laura thinks this actually made Travis jealous and pushed him to finally reciprocate Jester's feelings and finally act on them as Ford. Laura also revealed that none of the other potential ships ever really had a chance, like Caleb or Bo's crushes on Jester, because while Laura the player knew about them, in-game Caleb and Bo never made their feelings clear to Jester, so Laura continued to play her as completely oblivious and didn't make any moves on her end. So we potentially avoided a very different outcome, or at least a very messy love quadrangle, because Liam and Marisha played their characters' crushes a little too close to the vest in Campaign 2. And speaking of Marisha, apparently Imogen and Laudna were apparently not supposed to be a romantic item, with Marisha and Laura talking explicitly before the campaign about the subject and deciding not to have that kind of relationship between their characters. But once again, Laura decided at some point early in Campaign 3 that Imogen would simply feel the way she felt, and she decided to make her move, which Marisha reciprocated at the table. So while Laura may have let the romance come to her character in Campaign 1, it's clear in Campaigns 2 and 3 she had a target for her romance picked out and did her absolute best to make sure that happened in the game. As for Laura's legendary dice collection, she reveals that it's gotten so large she has no real way of knowing how many dice she has at this point, although she did appear to accept a challenge to try and track down all of her collection and weigh it during the chat. But she claimed a lot of it is not her fault, as people routinely send her gifts of dice sets or give them to her at conventions or shows, and she now literally has a secret stash not even Travis knows about in the tank top drawer of her dresser, which is far more dice and dice tins and tank tops at this point. She says she started stashing them there to remind herself to bring those dice to the set so she could roll them on camera, but she just got so many dice and so many dice sets that they just kept piling up, to the point where her secret stash took over the drawer. So if you have ever given Laura Bailey a set of dice at a show or convention and wondered what happened to them, odds are they're chilling next to her tank tops in a drawer in her house. We also learned something very interesting about Critical Role's business behind the scenes, specifically the merch that Laura is in charge of, when she revealed that the kids' clothing and products that Critical Role released a few years back sold so poorly that they've never done more. As a parent herself, Laura kept debating trying to release more kids' merch anyway, but this information could also help explain Critical Role's push for more kid-friendly content like Reese Layer's take and Tales from the Stinky Dragon over the last year. They clearly didn't have a ton of younger fans, so by putting out more family-friendly content that kids and parents could watch together, the goal appears to be to try and grow that younger demographic, so perhaps another kids merch drop will finally appear sometime in the next year or so if their plan is succeeding. And finally, in a potential sneak peek at her Campaign 4 character, Lara revealed, while answering questions about what classes her characters would play if they had to change classes, i.e. Jester would be a warlock and Vex was considering being a druid or a rogue, that she really wanted to play a martial class like a paladin, barbarian, or fighter after playing a lot of magic users lately. She mentioned the orc fighter that she played during the Elder Scrolls one-shot from a few years back as being an incredibly fun character to play, and then teased that perhaps she would make another fighter-type character in the future and be a badass with a sword. So as Campaign 4 looms ever closer with the end of Campaign 3 just a few episodes away, don't be shocked if Lara Bailey's next character is a sword and board badass or an axe-wielding barbarian. So let us know what your favorite Lara Bailey romance is in Critical Role and what you think her next character will be in the comments. And don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.